Okay, here's another quadratic formula, which I'm going to try to solve using the quadratic formula. I could try factoring. That doesn't always work. Sometimes it does, and it's usually quicker, but I'm guaranteed that the quadratic formula will work. So for this exercise, let's give it a shot. Now, I want this equal to 0, and it's not. It's 2x squared minus 4x equals 10. So I'm going to need to turn this into an equals 0 equation before I go any further. Now, that's not too hard. We just say minus 10 on each side, right? What we have to make sure of is when we rewrite this, I have it in standard form. So that's going to be my x squared on the left. Then I have my x in the middle, and then my number with no x's on the right side. And it's all equal to 0. Wonderful. Now, in terms of the a, b, and c that's being asked for next, this number in front of the x squared, that's a. Okay, so that's my 2. Next up, let's talk about b. It's going to be this number in front of the x. That's called my linear coefficient, and that's negative 4. And then finally, I have this number at the end with no variables. That's called the constant, and that's negative 10. And now I plug them into this quadratic formula, the negative b plus or minus thing, and you can see where everything fits in to its slot in this formula. You have a couple b's in here, so we stick the b's in, negative 4, and there's an a that I haven't talked about yet, so let's get that guy in here, right there and right there. Okay, now simplifying should be pretty quick for most of this, right? Negative times negative 4, that just flips the sign and we get a positive 4. 2 times 2 right here, that's easy, that's another 4. But what's inside the square root, that's where I get a little bit worried sometimes, and I am very careful about how I plug that into a calculator, keeping in mind all the parentheses and writing it exactly as it appears, because you make one little mistake right here. Either your parentheses isn't right, or your square root isn't right, or you miss a negative sign, and it's all shot. You got to start over again. So what I get is 96. And this is a good spot right here to hit submit and see if your answers are right before you get to your final answer. Next thing I do is the square root of 96. And I get a decimal, which means rats, we're going to have to do a little factor tree business. So it's just going to take a little longer than it would have. 96 divides into 2 and 48. 48 divides into 2 and 24. 24 divides into 2 and 12. 12 divides into 2 and 6. And 6 divides into 2 and 3. And you can see I have a little bit of a preference here for doing, you know, the lowest prime that I can. There's a pair of 2's, there's a pair of 2's, and now I'm stuck. So that means this thing will simplify to 2 times 2 times the square root of 2 times 3. So each of the pairs made a 2 on the outside. 2 times 3 is left inside, which means this is just 4 square root 6. So that's what I've got here. This is going to be 4 plus or minus 4 square root 6, all divided by 4. Now, in terms of how we simplify, we have to be a little careful. If you're going to divide by 4, and I'll show you how I see people often trying to do it. They say divide by 4 right here, and they cross that out and we get 1. Okay, well that's fine, but you have to do it to each one of these guys. Okay, this one over here gets it also, and this one over here gets it. That's another divide by 4. And what we get after all those divide by 4s, making sure that everything gets it, is you get 1 plus or minus 1 square root 6 all over 1. Okay, well that's fine. We can simplify this. We certainly don't need to say divided by 1. This is just 1 plus or minus square root 6. Not so bad, but that square root 6, you can't do anything with it. So we're going to write this as two answers. One of those answers is 1 plus square root of 6, and one of those answers is 1 minus square root 6. And for this one, you can simply say those two things. You use a comma to separate them, like this, and there's your two answers. You could also write it this way, and as long as it's simplified, the computer will accept that. The computer's smart enough to know what that means. Okay? So this is called an irrational answer, meaning it doesn't simplify to a nice fraction. You have that ugly little square root stuck in there. But that's our two solutions for x.